Hello, everybody, and welcome to Electric City Sentai Denzicaster. I'm your host, Mike, joined by
William.
And today we are taking a look at episodes 7 and 8 of Choukuu Sentai Liveman. So, this pair of episodes are entitled The Dinosaur vs. Live Robo and the Duel of Love and Rage, also known as Almost a Gun in the Mouth and Not Much More Than Filler. So,
Lord, that episode's dark real quick.
So episode 7 is the follow-up to episode 6, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago. That was Attack the Living Dinosaur.
Got the second part of that, and kind of glad I stuck around for that. But like I said, that shit went dark real fast.
Long story short, we figure out that our bad guys, specifically with Dr. Obler, is trying to track down Gon. Yes, I know it's spoilers. Hush. Gon, the baby dinosaur, trying to track him down and use him as a weapon. He has figured out a way to modify his experiment, which would be to enlarge, basically make my monster grow with the giant dinosaur, but apparently there's a risk to that. The process is only designed to work on beasts created by Volt, not on other living creatures, and the strain of being forced to grow big and eventually shrink back down to normal size can have catastrophic results. But our kid in this episode, who we hope was 10, because somehow if it's 10, it's not horrible, just dark. Younger than 10, we have decided, is right out.
There's a whole lot of demons in that kid if he's younger than 10, I'm just saying.
Basically, the kid decides that if the bad guys are going to use this baby dinosaur as a weapon, better to go ahead and kill the baby dinosaur.
And he volunteers to kill it.
And snatches the double-barrel shotgun away from Grandpa so that he can do the deed himself. Yeah,
that got real dark. As I was just like, okay, I understand. It's like, okay, the kid just, holy shit, he just volunteered to shoot in the head.
And for a moment, watching this, I promise you, it looks like the dinosaur is in agreement. And it looks like the dinosaur is turning his head to take in the double barrel shotgun into his mouth.
I think the way the suit was, I think he just leaned against it.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, this is, whoa, okay.
Yeah, so it went to a dark place. Yeah, the dinosaur begins to cry because this kid is going to put two barrels into his nugget. But suffice it to say, the dinosaur does get weaponized, briefly turned evil, as indicated by the red eyes, and then
red eyes always means evil.
Because red eyes always means evil, and when the dinosaur eventually comes to his senses and they destroy the controller that made him grow big, he shrinks back down to normal size, and then
was it the controller that made him turn big, or was that the thing that made him turn evil? Because he turns.
I think it might have been the thing that made him turn evil, and then when he turned good, he just shrunk automatically or something like that. Regardless, he shrinks back down to normal size and dies from just, I guess, the stress on his body growing large and then growing back down to normal size.
Science.
Yeah, or lack thereof. The Duel of Love and Rage basically has Dr. Kemp create a monster that feeds on emotions in human beings. We get more verbiage out of Professor Bias in this episode, and it's all apparently just like inner monologue because he never opens his mouth. It's just him thinking for most of the episode.
Yeah.
But
he says, I think, when the thing's all hatched out in his brain, then he says something that's the only thing he says out loud.
Yeah.
That's it.
But basically, the experiment, we see one interesting thing out of Bias in the episode. To be perfectly honest, the episode shows you that Megumi, Blue Dolphin, is a bit of a control freak. She is trying to train the live men or put them through their paces. Notice she's having everyone else train but her.
And she's already done this training. Is she the one that came up with it, and that's the reason why she's not training them?
I don't think they ever explain it. It's just she has a stopwatch and a maze and explosives and expects them to do it. So
I'm gonna just kind of hope for the best and be like, well, I did it. Why can't they do it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Well, maybe that is it, because towards the end of the episode, when she grabs the jump rope, she does start jumping rope before they do, and apparently was a prize fighter in a previous life.
I don't know, so jump rope skills are on point.
Yes.
Same.
But throughout the episode, they all have a moment where they're trying to learn to control their emotions, because the monster can take that emotion away from them, essentially, and use it as energy.
Even Dr. Kemp learned that lesson, too.
Yes, there was a little friendly fire. But the two most interesting things out of that episode are Professor Bias seems to have an interest in Megumi, and actually makes mention that she's just as emotional as all the other humans, or something along those lines. I don't know if that's him realizing that what was meant to attack the masses and then gather energy to fight the live man can be used as a weapon just against the live man themselves.
Might be a mix of both.
Yeah. And then we see some compassion where at the end of the episode, and it's not really dialogue, it's implied, Kemp is basically kowtowing, bowing deeply in apology for his failure, and Bias comes over and drapes his cape over him as if to almost comfort him. That this is not necessarily, it's a failure, but that's not the end of the world. We've learned something, kind of thing, out of it. Yeah. So I think you get some of Bias's personality, if not his character. So what stood out in this pair of episodes to you?
Besides the ugly dark shit with the kid.
Yeah, besides that.
Wow.
Or even that, if you want to elaborate on it.
Well, that too, but I think we've elaborated on that enough in the first little bit. That was, I mean, that we talk about turning a corner. That one turned the corner, whooped the corner's ass, and then just kept going.
That is also known as shit you can't do on modern kids television for 300, Alex.
Oh, hell.
Because there's no way you can hand a 10-year-old a double-barrel shotgun and let him put it to a dinosaur's head on a kid's TV show. Can you imagine seeing that crap on Barney?
Yes, please.
I wasn't going to disagree with that.
Nah, well.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there's plenty of things that people were like, oh my god, my kids are free. But that stood out to me from that episode, and the whole thing with the growing of the monster, which was like, okay, this is the one time they don't use the cannon, and I'm just like, and rightfully so, because they're trying to save this one.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have like the whole stress of like the monster, of the little dinosaur being. It was kind of sad. It was slightly touching. I'll put it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing in the 7th episode that stood out to me was the way they used the different scenes to show people getting mad and everything, and basically to exhibit the amount of pull that the monster had, and him just warping up the energy. And it was still funny that Dr. Kemp was about to like close in for the kill on was it Red?
I think it's Red Falcon.
It was Red Falcon, and then suddenly, like right before he can do anything, the monster saps him of the anger, and he just kind of like drops and goes like, no, not me. You're not supposed to attack me. You're supposed to attack them. See, I'm not angry. See, I was just like, okay, that's funny. I like that.
Some more of Yutaka Hirose for you on that one. So, I think my biggest like out of this pair of episodes, most of my like out of this actually comes out of the dinosaur episode, because it answers a question that you probably don't even realize you have at this point in the series, which is, if the most effective enemies against the live man thus far are the 3 doctors, so Obler, Mazinda, and Kemp, why don't you just grow them big? You can't, because they're living beings and it will kill them. Yep. So even if they're modified. So you now have an answer to a question you might not have even realized you had up to this point. So now you know why they're having to create beasts to do their bidding. And I like little stuff like that, where they'll do something almost sideways that helps establish the rules of the world. So I dig that.
It was more or less along to me. It was kind of like the whole genetic manipulation thing.
Mm-hmm.
If they can build it and make it that way, it should be able to be affected that way. But if you did nothing to the original aspect of it,
Mm.
no, it's that whole law fusion.
Yeah.
So.
Granted, we're probably putting more thought into it than the writers did. But...
Me, definitely. I don't know why, but I
am. Something we didn't care for. What didn't you like out of these 2 episodes?
Not knowing how old the kid was.
So, let me ask this.
That really just surprised the Jim. It was just like, whoa!
Was it something that just is it something that's surprising because what we effectively see, be perfectly honest, is we effectively see an adolescent child take a double-barrel shotgun and put it to the head of his pet.
Well, it wasn't so much that, it was more or less on the lines of he comes up with it. He starts talking it out to himself and everyone in the group, and even rationalizes why he should be the one that does it, and that it should be done. And I'm just like, this kid has put way too much thought, and apparently putting 2 in the head of this dinosaur. I was like, that was the, I mean, that to me was just like, okay, this kid's got to be older than hopefully 10. I'll just shoot for 10 and hope he's like maybe around that range. Because like anything lower than like 7, I'm just like, the kid's guessing. There's something wrong with that one. I mean, granted, both of his parents are dead. You find that out, and so his grandfather is the only person he has left. They don't necessarily say how his parents die. At least
they don't
say it. But all you feel because you're in the cave with that, with Gon.
I mean, this kid is in. For those of you out there who are familiar with Mobile Suit Gundam, in particular, some of the miniseries, he's in Alfred Izuruha territory. Alfred Izuruha, yeah, you know who I'm talking about? Yeah, the 11-year-old kid from War in the Pocket, where all the bad crap happens. And you almost get the vibe that this kid might have seen something like that at some point. Yeah. I think, actually, the thing I liked least about this was, I don't know if it was so much that the kid comes up with the plan, that the kid snatches up the gun, that the kid's ready to do it. I think the actual part that bothered me on a certain level is that there are 4 grown adults around him, and not a damn one of them tries to stop him.
That was my only like.
That kind of bothers me, that there are 4 grown adults nearby, one of them being his guardian, which is the one he snatches the gun away from, and not a single one of them actually attempts to stop him. That bothers me on a slight level. Yeah, it goes really dark, and the kid basically realizes it's not the right thing to do, and you see him come to the realization on his own, and there's the sorrow and the emotion, and it plays out as a really cool emotional scene. This would never happen. So the second he tries to snatch the gun from Grandpa's going to put a death grip on the double barrel and be like, son, what are you doing? So even for Super Sentai, you lose a bit of realism in there to me. But
I don't know. It may have. I want to kind of chalk it up to maybe it was the whole shock of like, what the fuck did he just say? What the fuck did he just do? Seriously? And then before someone reacts, it was like, oh, okay, he came to his own realization.
Yeah.
I want to say it was the shock of the situation, but at some point in time, Dave's back there shaking his head no. Like I said, I want to say it was the shock of the situation, but I do realize that at some point in time, somebody's going to be like, whoa, there's a kid with a loaded double barrel right there. Somebody needs to stop him. Yeah.
As the only person in the room who's bred, let me tell you, your kids will frighten you at times. But if they grab the gun, you will react. Every time.
So.
But the other thing is that you guys were talking about, him being 10 does make sense from a psychological advancement growth, because that's when children start realizing the mortality of people around them, if not even themselves.
See, that's why. Like I said, that was one of the reasons why that I was hoping. I'm hoping the kid was like at least 10 or maybe 11 or 12. But.
And part of what makes it a cool scene and an interesting, I shouldn't say cool, but something that gives the scene gravitas is you do see this child wrestling with the question of, it's either I put down my pet or my pet gets used as a weapon to kill innocent people. Yeah. So that's an interesting moral dilemma for a child in the show.
Do you think the show did it so that the viewer, being a child, could relate?
Probably. Because it's the kid. It's not unusual for Super Sentai to put children in certain situations as the audience identification figures. So, in fact, that's one of the reasons down the road that there are even kid rangers. So,
it's the same thing with Togashi in the episode his little brother.
yes, and back in episode 5,
he's kind of like that wholesome where he misses his brother, and since his brother was just like Yusuke is this guy that I trust, it's like he comes looking for him because he's trying to figure something out.
So, what are we looking forward to coming out of these 2 episodes?
Hopefully, not seeing that shit ever again. But I'm pretty sure that's gonna happen.
No more preteens with shotguns, please.
Especially not ones that could like rip their arm out or socket.
Yeah.
But definitely seeing more. I'm glad we got to see a little more of Professor Bias.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still wanting to see. I'm just wanting to see like I'm hoping around, let's say episode 12, maybe 15, maybe just like a story, like maybe some more backstory on him.
Okay.
I mean, I understand like the intimidation factor and the fact that the 3 are the big bad, but he is the big bad, and that's the person that's basically calling on strings and basically probably just like I said in the last video, just walk up and be like, I could fight you, but I don't really want to waste my time. You're not even on my level. That kind of intimidating bad guy. I kind of like those. So.
I like the slow boil for Bias at the moment. That's the most interesting thing in the series to me right at this moment. This is the second time I've watched through. Because they've taken, we're now 8 episodes in. After 3 episodes, you know he's there. After 6 episodes, you know that he is both a source of inspiration and fear for our 3 lieutenants, the 3 doctors. And by this point, you now realize that there is some motive. He has some motivations. We start to see kind of what pulls his strings as a character. So I'm hoping that we get more and more of that out of the character as we progress. So with that said, I think we've pretty much gotten these 2 episodes out of the way. When next we return, we will be looking at episode 9, Smell the Feverish Rose, and episode 10, Skateboard to Escape the Maze. Some reason I think that's probably a Yellow Lion episode. So that's what's to come. If you get a chance, folks, jump over to our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/ECS Network. Help support us over there. We're trying to get some money together to buy some lighting rigs. That's our next big project. Some for this show, some for Chopsaki Cinema, some for 8-Star Anime. So that's our next big deal.
Dear sweet Lord, do we need them?
Yeah, we could use them, trust me. And when you go over there, there's exclusive content, early access, and you even get to pick some of the stuff that we do here on the ECS network. So please go over there, and if you have any ideas for rewards or things you would like to see, hey, let us know. That's what the community and comments pages are over there for. Of course, you can make comments down below. Please share, like, subscribe. You can find all of our cool swag at cafepress.com/ECS network, and all of our social media stuff you will see once I'm done yapping. So, folks, until next time, I'm Mike.
Wayne.
And we'll see you on Denzicaster.